Crime and Punishment is a novel by Fyodor Dostoevsky that delves into the psychological turmoil of a young man named Rodion Romanovich Raskolnikov. Set in St. Petersburg, Russia during the 1860s, the novel explores themes of morality, guilt, and redemption. Dostoevsky paints a vivid portrait of Raskolnikov's inner conflict as he grapples with the ramifications of his actions. The protagonist, Raskolnikov, is a former student living in poverty and becomes obsessed with the idea of committing a crime to test his theory about extraordinary individuals. His confidant and moral compass is Sonia, a meek and religious young woman forced into prostitution to support her family. Raskolnikov's sister, Dunya, a strong-willed and virtuous woman, faces her own trials and tribulations, along with their loving and worried mother. Porfiry Petrovich plays the part of the shrewd and perceptive detective investigating the murders. Arkady Ivanovich Svidrigailov, one of the most intriguing and morally complex characters in the novel, is a former employer of Raskolnikov's sister Dunya, and is depicted as a wealthy, debauched and unscrupulous man. His character embodies the darker aspects of human nature, driven by selfish desires and a disregard for moral boundaries. The novel begins with Raskolnikov tormented by his theories of morality and power, believing that certain people, those he deemed extraordinary, have the right to transcend conventional moral laws if those actions contribute to humanity's greater good. This belief leads him to contemplate the murder of Alyona Ivanovna, a cruel and greedy pawnbroker, to steal her money and alleviate his poverty. Raskolnikov's hatred for Alyona is intensified by his observations of her cruel treatment of her half-sister, Lizaveta Ivanovna. Alyona's greed and callousness serve as further justification in Raskolnikov's mind for why her death would be a moral good. Raskolnikov meticulously plans the murder of Alyona, indicating a high level of premeditation. He visits her apartment multiple times to gather information and rehearses the crime in his mind. He chooses an axe as his weapon and carefully times his visit to coincide with when Alyona is alone. On the day of the murder, Raskolnikov's mental state is both highly focused and fragmented. He carries out the act with brutal efficiency, killing Alyona with the axe. However, the unexpected arrival of Lizaveta throws him into a panic, and he murders her as well to avoid being caught. Following the murders, Raskolnikov's psychological state deteriorates rapidly. He is consumed by guilt and paranoia, experiencing intense physical and mental symptoms. His initial feelings of triumph and relief quickly give way to horror and self-revulsion. He oscillates between feverish guilt and a cold rationalization of his actions. His interactions with others become increasingly strained, and he isolates himself, further deepening his despair. Raskolnikov meets Sonia Marmeladov, the daughter of a former government clerk who has fallen into alcoholism. Due to her family's dire financial situation, Sonia is forced into prostitution to support her stepmother and her 3 young siblings. Despite her own suffering and the degradation of her life, Sonia remains kind-hearted and devoutly religious. She becomes a source of solace for Raskolnikov, who is drawn to her unwavering faith and compassion. Porfiry Petrovich, the astute detective, begins to suspect Raskolnikov's involvement in the murders. Through a series of psychological games and probing conversations, Porfiry gradually tightens the net around Raskolnikov, who becomes increasingly paranoid and agitated. Raskolnikov's inner turmoil reaches a climax when he confesses his crime to Sonia. She implores him to confess to the authorities and seek redemption through suffering. Her unwavering support and moral clarity deeply affect Raskolnikov, who begins to see a glimmer of hope in the possibility of redemption. Arkady Svidrigailov, a morally corrupt man with his own dark past, serves as a foil to Raskolnikov. His actions and fate highlight the dangers of unchecked immorality and self-destruction. Svidrigailov's obsession with Dunya and his subsequent suicide further underscores Dostoevsky's exploration of guilt and redemption. Sonia plays a crucial role in Raskolnikov's decision to confess. Her unwavering compassion, faith, and moral integrity provide a stark contrast to Raskolnikov's nihilistic outlook. Ultimately, Raskolnikov's guilt becomes unbearable, and he decides to confess to the authorities. He goes to the police station and, in a state of exhaustion and despair, admits to the murders of Alyona Ivanovna and Lizaveta. This act of confession is both a surrender and a liberation, as he finally accepts the moral responsibility for his actions. The confession marks the beginning of Raskolnikov's journey toward redemption. Raskolnikov is sentenced to Siberian exile, where he continues to grapple with his conscience. Sonia follows him, offering unwavering support and love. In the harsh conditions of the labor camp, Raskolnikov begins to undergo a profound transformation. He slowly comes to understand the value of love, compassion, and moral responsibility. Crime and Punishment is a profound exploration of the human psyche and the moral dilemmas faced by individuals. Dostoevsky emphasizes that moral laws are absolute and cannot be transgressed without severe consequences. Raskolnikov's belief that he could operate outside these laws leads to his downfall, suggesting that no individual is above moral accountability. Sonia's unwavering faith and her compassionate support for Raskolnikov demonstrate the potential for love and empathy to heal and redeem even those who have strayed far from moral paths. Through Raskolnikov's journey from crime to confession and eventual redemption, Dostoevsky examines the complex interplay between guilt, punishment, and the possibility of salvation. The novel ultimately suggests that true redemption can only be achieved through suffering, love, and a sincere acceptance of moral responsibility.